Alright everyone, there's a link in the description to Ouroboros Press and the page for the Petit Albert, the edition that I myself crafted there. It's been edited further, it's been re-illustrated, which is semi-important, of course. Some of the illustrations in my edition were not present, and the rest were, let's say, not exactly up to, the standards of a mainstream publisher, although they work well enough for my purposes. This is a limited edition release through a publisher. These are hardcover as opposed to the sort of soft cover materials, the paperbacks that I usually release using Amazon. This is a totally separate edition. It's hardcover. There are also leather-bound and vellum, extremely fine printing copies available. But fairly soon here, in this month of April, the physical copies are going. It'll no longer be on just pre-order. Physical copies of the hardcover edition will become physically available, which means there is no guarantee for those of you who support my literary work, who are interested in collecting grimoires, in a bibliophile sense, and I fit into that category a bit myself, or you're an occultist and you want a physical copy for some sort of practice. I can't guarantee that they'll remain available. I also can't guarantee that another printing will ever be made of this edition. So if you want one, if you intend to invest into it, my suggestion is to do so, because, again, I can't guarantee that they'll last for very long. It's entirely possible that any of these 3 runs could completely sell out fairly quickly once they actually become physically available. For those of you, and I'm assuming this accounts for some 30,000 or so people that have subscribed to me on YouTube, as well as probably the majority of you on VidMe, possibly people following me on Twitter, Facebook, where else. I'm going to put the link everywhere. For those of you who aren't aware, the Petit Albert is one of the more overlooked grimoires of the Enlightenment period. We're talking the 18th century of manufacture. It's sort of part of this tradition, late 1600s through the very early 1800s. You get sort of a splitting of the grimoire tradition into the high magic, sort of the takeoff of the earlier Solomonic works, which are very formal, very ritualistic, kind of highbrow writing. And then you've got the Petit Albert and similar works, which are essentially peasant grimoires. And these contain some pragmatic stuff in them as well. There's literally a recipe in here for fattening up your pigeons. It's really veterinary medicine 101 for that era. Then you get the slightly more weird stuff, like it does contain the most elaborate treatment of the Hand of Glory of any of these manuscripts from the period, the sort of Hand of the Thief or the Hanged Thief. It depends on who you ask. It's essentially a hand that allows you to become more or less invisible by only giving light to the person who's crafted it. So sort of the black candle ritualism. It's sort of the thief's hand, essentially. It teaches about counterfeiting currency through the means of alchemical practice. It has some weird stuff in it. It also goes into the talismanic arts to a bit. And it does share some overlap with things like the Grimorium Verum or the Grand Grimoire, sort of this general overarching tradition of literature. It's a very good work, and I'm actually very proud about how even the original paperback came out. However, this is a fine release. This is a limited printing by a legit publisher, Ouroboros Press. If you intend to acquire a copy, I can make no guarantees about it continuing to be available for very long once it is physically available. Typically, in my understanding, what happens when pre-orders become available, some of the copies are immediately pre-ordered, it then slacks off, and then when they become physically available, there's another surge in interest. And the last time, actually, funny story, I think that I may have accidentally Ouroboros Press website for several hours, because it appeared to be knocked offline by the amount of traffic that actually entered it the last time I made the announcement about pre-orders being available, which was the first day after they did actually become available. And so I'm not sure, that might have had to do with site traffic being too high, actually, which means there's probably enough interest so that, I don't know how long those copies are going to last. Very few of the vellum editions are going to be available. Although, admittedly, for some people that's out of their price range, but the hardcover edition, all things considered, is at competitive price to hardcovers of this kind of literature, and it's collectible. It's collectible specifically because probably no more will ever be printed than the ones that are already listed there. So if you're interested in a copy, right now there's still pre-ordering available for all 3 editions. Can't guarantee that after the pre-orders are done and they actually start getting shipped out that they're going to be around for very long. Especially considering the number of people that are going to see this video, going to see it on YouTube, VidMe, maybe see the link on Twitter and so forth. It could honestly take the site down. If it does look like it's down or it's like, slowed to a crawl, I would suppose just wait a day or something and then try if you're interested in an edition. But this will be far more refined than the paperback that I myself released. Under my contract, the paperback will continue to be available because part of that is again, labor of love. I'm trying to offer editions of these occult works to people at a low enough price while being properly edited as opposed to facsimile copies. Or more expensive paperbacks, which sometimes are inferior to the facsimiles for some reason. I don't know what people who vend books on Amazon are thinking half the time. I don't understand it. It makes no sense to me. But this is a proper edition, something collectible, something that, you're an occultist. You can put it on your altar. You can put it on your bookshelf with the other grimoires. There are people who collect this kind of book, even if they're not occultists as well. In my understanding, again, a lot of times they're going to wait until the pre-ordering is over and the physical copies come online, so they may sell out some of these editions, actually. So again, link in the description on YouTube and VidMe to this edition. If the site goes offline like it appeared to before when I announced this a couple of months ago, just wait, try it again in a couple of hours or something. That's about all. Peace out.